It is time to talk about your health on Morning Express this morning, the 8th of September, Monday. Beautiful week, another start. And joining us today is Dr. Ian Kamuri. He's a dermatologist to help us talk about hair disorders. So what do we mean when you say hair disorders? People who don't have hair, people who have hair in awkward places that shouldn't, or too much hair. Talk to us about hair disorders.
Good morning. Well, when we talk about hair, hair disorder can mean either you have little hair, more hair, or you have hair distributed wrongly. What do I mean? Yeah. Hair disorder, when we talk about hair loss, there are people who have had their normal hair and all of a sudden hair start falling, or they may notice one day they go to a salon and they find they have a patch of hair on their scalp that's not there. That is again hair loss. Or they notice they have been having very strong even hair, then all of a sudden they notice that the hair is becoming thin, and anytime they go to do the combing or they hold their hair, they come out with their hair. That is again hair loss. Then you can also have excessive hair.
Yes.
You can have hair in areas you don't need. Yes. One of the areas is what we call the beard areas. If you are a lady and you have beards, then it means you have a hair disorder. If you have hair growing on your chest, then you also have hair disorder.
Yeah.
And then sometimes also if you have hair going again, like if you are a lady and you have the distribution following that male pattern, again that's a hair disorder. Okay. All these are issues that have to do with hair.
And we want to invite you, if you have any question, to call us. Our phone numbers will be on your screen, and you can call us and contribute. If you have a question, the doctor will be willing and is ready to answer it. All about hair disorders this morning. So let's begin then with, for the women, hair should primarily be where? So that we first start with where it should not be.
What is good hair?
Okay.
When we talk about good hair, we talk about hair that's well distributed, hair that is strong, and hair that has a color. Of course, when we talk about hair color, we are not talking about hair that is dyed or not dyed. It's not that a dye is bad, but I'm saying when we look at a hair, when we want to see whether the hair is nutritionally viable, right, you look at how strong is the hair, how thick is the hair, and how much is it in your scalp, and how is it distributed. Hair should be thick, it should be strong, it should not break easily. Anytime you are combing, it should not break. Now, when we talk about now hair loss, at any given time, each person has about 100,000 hairs on your scalp. Okay. And in every day, hair is growing, hair is resting, hair is dying. As in, the hair goes into three phases. There is that phase of growth, there is that phase of death, and there is that phase of resting. When you comb your hair and it falls off, that is what we call death. And it's a normal routine. And every day when you comb, at least you should have about maybe 100 pieces, small pieces falling. If you notice that anytime you are combing your hair and hair is falling more than 100 pieces, or you do like this and you are seeing a bunch of hair, then you are losing your hair. Okay. We need to find out why you are losing your hair. Why is losing hair a problem? Because hair is like a window. It tells us if there is smoke inside the house, the first place you'll see smoke coming out is through the windows, the doors. Hair is one of the windows of our body systems. Okay. There are some disorders. When we look at your hair, we can know what is your nutritional status. Okay. Basically, you look okay. Don't look worried.
Okay.
Your hair looks...
You've done a quick one. Well, let's just say there's a mix of hair going on here. Yes. Mine and others.
Well, at least we can see. The little I can see looks healthy. So we can look at your hair and look and find whether you have a nutritional issues. There are people with nutritional disorders, problem with eating.
So what is it you need to eat for good hair?
Like, first of all, there is one thing, there is this move about people losing weight. Some people come and tell me, I was weighing this much, I went to the gym and I went for a nutritional course and I was put on a nutritional regimen, and now I have lost weight, but I have also lost my hair. Of course, you can't have the cake and eat it all. If you lose weight so drastically, your hair falls.
Wow.
Yes, and this is what I want people to know. Also, if there are some food regimens, there are diet regimens people are given, such that you actually end up having deficient, nutritional deficient. This again leads to hair loss. One of the most important elements in making hair is iron. And that's why if you have iron deficiency, again, your hair falls. If you are a person, especially the ladies who get very heavy menses, until your blood levels come down, and you get something we call microcytic hypochromic anemia. You get an anemia that is iron deficient, then you also get hair loss. This is only nutrition.
Yeah.
If you are sick, if you get sick, sudden sickness for a while and then you recover, your hair falls. What we call telogen effluvium. Again, if you have a long-term problem, stress by itself. If you are stressed for a season and it is affecting you psychologically, again, your hair falls. It's normally actually a cascade of events. Especially for women, when your hair falls, you get stressed. When stress starts worrying you more, you actually lose more hair. Again, this also leads to stress. There are other things called endocrine disorders, disorders that are related to hormones. For example, if you have a thyroid problem, there is a gland that's normally on our neck called the thyroid. If that gland is either underworking or overworking, what we call hypothyroidism when it's low, or hyperthyroidism when it is high, this condition will also lead to hair loss.
Wow. Okay.
You see, all these are conditions. The reason why I'm putting it is people don't take hair loss as a serious problem. Anytime you notice you are losing hair, then no, we need to find out. However, and I say the reason why I say however is because it's not again all hair loss that is due to a disease process.
It can be
kipara. You know what people call kipara?
The receding hair.
Receding hairline.
Yes.
But you see, we call it receding hairline when it is in a man, because most men, the hairline starts from here going backward.
Yeah.
Of course, it's associated with wealth, where I come from. But it is actually genetic.
Okay.
Now, in women, also, there is what we call female pattern androgenic alopecia. Androgenic alopecia means it's actually an issue of hormones, a certain hormone called androgen. Even women do get that type of hair loss, where it's kipara, but most of it may not come like the one the one in a man, that the hair is receding. It normally starts at the center here, and you start by noticing hair becomes sparse, loose, thin, and it is asymptomatic. There is nothing to complain. There is no itch, there is no pain. You just notice that as you go to the salon, it's your hairdresser who is telling you, by the way, your hair here is becoming very thin, and it's very nikidogo, it's very few. So these are hair losses, and they are wide and varied. The other major hair loss we see, it's infection. Like now, if you get a fungal infection, what we call the tinea capitis, occasionally it will give you a patch of hair loss. And that, again, it is purely organic. You can pick something. This is, when you do a test, you will find that actually this is caused by fungal infection.
All right.
The other commonest we see, especially in young people of your age and young men, is something we call alopecia areata. Now, our bodies always protect us at any given time. Occasionally, those cells that fight us against diseases, you are so healthy that actually they don't know what to fight. So occasionally, they notice, they just pick some of your body cells like they are enemies and they crush them in a process we call autoimmune. Self-immunity. Your immunity is mounting a fight until it has nothing to fight. It starts fighting its own cell. When it fights and hits your own hair follicle, that's what we call alopecia areata. When it's areata, it's only a small portion of the scalp, the beard, anywhere there is hair, including the other parts. You can get a patch, and many people will treat it for fungal, and it's not going.
It's not.
This is called alopecia areata. When it involves the whole scalp, it is called alopecia totalis. That is, you have no hair on the scalp, you have no eyebrows, you have no beards, and then it can also sometimes hit all the hair follicles in your body. You look like a mole. Unajua the mole. Anywhere there is hair, even the axilla, even down there, even everywhere, you get what we call alopecia totalis.
All right, you've talked extensively about the different types of hair disorders we'll see. Let's give a solution for especially what you just described now, for the patches, especially at the back or in the middle and the receding hairline. Other than dietary considerations that need to be put in place and what you've been able to take in, you mentioned iron being very important.
Yes, iron is very important.
What else do we do to make sure the hair is healthy? And if you're having those challenges, you can maybe just talk about 2 or 3 what you need to do to counter.
Well, the first thing also is, what do we do to the hair? We know people who naturally live in the salon. There are people who visit the salon every day. There are people who actually have kept a salon in their houses. The hair practice, what we call the hair practice. What do you do to your hair? Are you punishing your hair, or are you treating your hair? Those are 2 different things. When we talk about treating your hair, you are taking good care of your hair. Some people actually punish the hair. And when I mean punish the hair, you wash the scalp every day. Yes. You blow dry the hair every day. And like, you can even be doing relaxing nearly on a weekly basis, applying chemicals every week, putting on the dryer every week. You see, all this, the hair are fibers. Actually, they are fibers that can actually, it's like a cloth. When you buy a fabric that's very nice, the first thing they will always say is not for washing. Yes. You should not hand wash. But the same thing, when you do hand washing, what happens? The fabric goes kaput. The same, we must formulate the process of treating our hair. You must have a kind of a routine. One, you should minimize the amount, the patterns you put in your head. If it is braiding, for example, you should not also be a permanent braider.
Back to back.
Every time you move from this salon, put hot water here, then the next week put another, the third week you put another one, the next month, next year, as in you are permanently on braids. Normally what happens when you are permanently on braids, one, the hair breaks very easily. As much as we had the myth that when you braid, the hair grows faster.
It's not the case.
It is not the case. In fact, if you look at those people who braid a lot, they have a certain type of hair loss called traction alopecia. Actually, in layman's language, we call hair loss due to fracture of hair.
Wow.
And they get hair loss at this area, this patch and this patch. Most women, 60% of especially African or black women, they have traction alopecia. Prove me wrong. Look at all your friends. You will see most of them have hair loss here. This is purely because of braiding.
Okay, we'll continue on that note, but I understand you have a caller online who has a question. Good morning, sir. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you very much for calling. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, I'm Victor.
Yes, Victor.
And I have a problem with my hair.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there are some pimples at the back of my head, and I've been actually treating it for some time for fungal, bacterial, but it has not. It corner.
Okay.
So I was asking the doctor what could be the best solution for this.
All right. Thank you, Victor.
Yeah.
Yes, what Victor has is very common. Actually, this is another black man's problem. And this is caused by what we call ingrowing hair. This is they normally start as pimples behind the occiput region at the back there. And this is because of shaving. Once you shave, especially when
shaving the back.
Yes, when you shave and you do a clean shave,
okay.
Unajua ile tunasemaga niweke cut, you know how you put a line looking very nicely, you know, it means you are cutting the hair very short. This is something we call acne keloidalis. When you do a very clean shave, when the hair is growing, you see our African hair curls. Our hair naturally curls. That's why you spend sleepless night in the salon straightening it with chemicals so that it doesn't curl.
Very kinky.
Yes. When now it's growing, as it gets out of the hole, if you had done a very clean cut, some of that hair actually curls backward. It curls back to the hole and causes an inflammation. Now the pimples you see down there, what we call now the pseudofolliculitis, it is actually folliculitis because of the shaving. What does Victor do? If you know you have that tendency of getting those pimples down there, the first thing is you must avoid
clean shave.
I know, especially for professionally, for the police, the armed forces, who must always have a clean cut, and even have a beret or kofia, it is normally a big problem. Some we even have to write for them a letter, because as long as you are cutting clean and you are putting something that keep pressing there, they tend to grow, and then they form those bumps. What do we do to the bumps once they are formed? There are some drugs we do give because they also get infected, so we give antibiotics, and then there are some creams we do apply both morning and evening for a while until they stop. But even if they clear, you must stop having a very clean cut on that region.
Okay, let's go back to the women, and before we move on to the men, we're talking about the problem that's on the sides of the hairline, the traction,
alopecia.
Yes, so basically it is to ensure that you do not repeatedly mistreat the hair, as you said, punish it, and be perhaps a bit staggered even in terms of what you're doing. Yes.
And even when you see, I will tell you, and unfortunate, I live with ladies. I know when you classify a good salonist or a good hairdresser, the person who know how to make them very tight, until when you come home you can hardly sleep because it's so tight.
Yeah,
you are having a headache, you are feeling your face is pulled from every side. That's a good one. But for a dermatologist, that's a dangerous person. It's actually you are punishing your scalp, you are punishing your hair, and we are pulling this trend even to children. Like now, if you notice that anytime you take your child to the salon, and once they are plaited, you see small pimples around the hair follicles, it means you are actually pulling excessively. You are stretching that scalp, and until you get some pimples. I treat a number of children with those pimples because of excessive pulling. Let the hair just be gently held together, not
because I imagine when it's pulled like that, it will last longer.
Yes, that's what we think, but actually the damage, as you pull more, they break more.
Okay.
And when they break under, now they cause that fracture, and eventually the hair does not grow. The hardest type of management of hair loss, especially this one, is one of the most difficult, the traction alopecia. In fact, we end up doing transplant
To be able to fix it.
To be able to fix that hair loss along the edges here, we only survive by traction. Otherwise, by transplant. Otherwise, most of the other measures don't help the hair
much.
grow.
We have another call online. Dennis is calling us, I think, from Mombasa. Good morning.
Good morning, habari.
Mzuri sana.
Salama, nataka kumuuliza daktari anisaidie kidogo. Manake niko na shida ya fungal infection, nikiwa nywele yangu iko kubwa tu, kianza kuwa kubwa na kujikuna, lakini ikiwa ndogo sijikuni. Kwenye kuna nywele huko kwa macho na ndevu ikiwa tu kubwa na kujikuna, na zanieleza shida ni nini?
Did you get that?
Yes.
Asante, sawa.
Asante. Now, he is talking about itch when the hair becomes longer, and again, this is something again like what we call folliculitis. There are two things that will make people have an itchy scalp. One is what we call the dandruffs. Dandruffs are mainly caused by yeast. It's a form of bacteria, or is a form of fungi, but most of them is yeast, what we call the yeast. We live with them normally, but some people, especially those people who have an oily skin, tend to have more of those yeast, and they actually end up causing seborrheic, what we call seborrheic eczema, which when it is in severe form, that's what we call the dandruffs and such. That would cause an itch. But the other thing is the same thing we are talking about folliculitis. The same thing that you see appearing down here, even inside the scalp, you may have, and that's the one that you will see having pimples, small pimples on the scalp, itchy. And now when you itch, because of hands contamination and such, bacteria do set in, what we call the Staph aureus, and now you start getting wounds on the scalp.
Okay.
The first thing he needs to do, he needs to go and be examined so that somebody sees whether is it the hair that is curling backward, what we call ingrowing hair, or is it actually a fungal infection. When it's a fungal infection, it's easy to treat because you give antifungals and you give what we call the anti-dandruff shampoos, and you wash the scalp and they clear.
All right.
But if it is not clearing, then it means it could be folliculitis and it needs to be treated in a different way.
Okay, we also have, I think, George, is he still online? George?
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning to you.
Go ahead with your question or contribution.
Yeah, my question is, the doctor has told us that, hello?
Yes,
Hello.
we hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, the doctor has told us that there is this trend called receding hairline.
Yes.
And I understand it's genetic.
Yes.
My question is this trend reversible?
All right, thank you, George.
All right.
Well, this has been a challenge, especially for young people. Because it's genetic and it can start as early as 20 years, and it really affects people's self-esteem and such. However, everything has a solution. One of the things that we try to do, we do something called hormone. We try to give some drugs that try to reverse androgenic. It's called androgenic alopecia. You give some drugs that try to reverse the process. When it does not work therapeutically, we actually do transplant. There is transplant for those
How
people.
much is it roughly? If it's the half head, quarter head?
One, it depends on, it's not a cheap process, because you can imagine hair transplant, unlike transplant of the kidney, where you have the whole kidney you just put.
Yeah.
Hair transplant, you can imagine you pick what we call follicular unit, one hair after another. It's like planting.
Wow.
It's like planting rice. You know how rice is planted? You put one. Hair transplant is like that. And then it's not everything that you plant grows.
So you could need to go back.
Yes, you will do back like 2 or 3 times before you get total hair growth. You may do 2 or 3. There is something, another procedure also we call tissue expanding. For example, if you have a hairline that is not so extensive, we can actually expand your skin. We put something that will pull your hair, your scalp up, the skin of the scalp up, so that you will pull backward. You will bring the
hair
front
comes forward.
Yeah, as in you will cut a small portion and then you pull. You are getting the science. You have expanded the tissue. You expand the volume here. It's like if you have a boil here, when you remove the boil, see the skin is very laxed. So you actually pull the skin front. Right.
We have another caller, Gasheri, is calling us. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for calling. Go ahead with your question.
Daktari.
Yes.
Nataka kukuuliza.
Yes.
Kwa nini wanawake wanatoka ndevu?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, we have dealt so much about hair loss.
Yeah.
Now there is what we talked about, unwanted hair. One of the commonest cause is now when ladies have beards. When ladies have beard, one, it is, we talk about hormonal. Again, it's an issue of hormones. Two, is an issue of genetic. Some people, you will find their family, when they get to a certain age, because of either testosterone, androgen levels or imbalance, they actually get beards. The other thing, and this is one of the reasons why I want people to be checked. Anytime you see you have beards, it's also good to be checked, especially if you start getting beard when you are younger. It could also be a hormonal issue. And you could actually be having what we call ovarian problems, diseases with the ovaries that can actually lead to hormonal derangement and then causing hair growing like a beard. Then there are also other, when you see you are getting excessive hair also, especially in other areas, what we call hirsutism. One, it could still be hormonal, and sometimes, God forbid, and I know people really panic, sometimes some cancers can actually affect some parts of the body, which changes the process, and you start producing a lot of hair. But this happens relatively older. When you see it in younger people, we only get worried about what we call polycystic ovarian disease, where you get acne, then you get problem with your menses, and also you get problem with the hair distribution being more. You just need to be evaluated. However, majority, 65%, it is genetic, and it is actually of no problem. What do we do? When somebody has beards, two things. We first eliminate, is it a normal occurrence? Is it a challenge? How is it affecting them psychologically? Because a woman having beards, you will see most of them will be down. They will not be facing people directly. Most of them, you will see, some of them will not be having relations because they see. So they need to have that consultation. Yes, they need to be seen to establish whether it is an organic problem. When it's not an organic problem, we remove them. We do laser. There are several things we do. We can do what we call epilation by use of electrocautery. We use a machine that uses electricity. And then we also have laser. We remove them with laser, which is not painful, unlike the others. But you have to do it several times until it clears. It is gone. Our time, unfortunately, is up. But thank you so much. Definitely need to do a part 2 to this one, because I know even our guest had many more questions. I also still had more, but we'll definitely do another soon. So Dr. Ian Kamuri, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for watching the show today. Always great being with you every morning. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a lovely day.